musically, I kind of approach everything exactly the same. I just want it all to be exciting and loud and give you whatever emotion you're supposed to get. So one of the things I always have for vocals is an analog delay. I've had a few of them over the years and gone through different models, and I was really starting to think, you know what, I'm just going to go in the box and use delay, because the delays in plugins sound really good. But there are certain things about analog delays in the analog domain where you can drive them, and the way you can really shape the filter on the feedback and tailor the decay, both level and filter-wise, that it seems really difficult on plugins. I mean, I find myself automating things on plugins that you shouldn't have to, where you should just get your sort of 5 repeats and gone, and you can't. You either get 3 or you get 9. And so I put up that delay as soon as I got it home, and it's been on every mix since I put it in. The first record I used it on was on Black Sabbath 13. I do a lot of work with Rick Rubin, and one of the things about working with Rick is vocals are generally pretty dry. But obviously, with Ozzy's vocal, that's not the way things work. His sound is a doubled vocal with some stuff on it, and one of the bits of that stuff is the delay. So even though I'll always use a slap delay just to create some size and some depth, that was a record where you could really hear it. And there are a lot of longer delay throws that are actually timed to the tempo, and that's all done using the MIDI interface on the delay. That's all over that record. I mean, anytime you hear a delay on the vocal, that's what it is. Recalling things like delays is important because, especially on a record like that, it's very, very specific. So first of all, being able to just open up the plugin and send all and know that it's exactly how I left it because it's saved with the session. That means that every song I could actually tweak the delay instead of thinking, you know what, I better just leave it because I'm going to have to do a recall and I don't want to get into this. So I could have it start following tempo and things like that. And also there are just a bunch of parameters that aren't on the front panel that you can get to. So being able to really tweak which mode you put the delay in. So, I mean, there are 3 different ways to do a 100 millisecond delay and they all sound totally different. And being able to really mess with that, you can only do it with the editor. For me, harmonic distortion and band limiting and things like that are really important. So being able to put the 500 delay into the lo-fi mode, even if I'm using a very short delay time, is important because it band limits and also gives you some distortion because it's a pretty low rate going through the delay. And then also just being able to drive the input gives you a harmonic color that is special to that delay. I love the fact that the input and output controls are not digitally controllable because they didn't sound as good. So stick with a fully analog input and output pot. So that way I can really reach over and drive that delay, or because you're driving it from something like Pro Tools where you can automate sends, I can actually automate the drive going in. So I can really push more level into the delay on the chorus. So rather than bringing up the return, sometimes I'll actually bring up the send and start really killing the input. And that gives me a much more, I don't know, spread out sound to the delay because it's a great breakup on the way in. In a standard rock track or even a pop track, when you hit the chorus, things need to get bigger. And it really, for me, is in 3 dimensions. There's always the wider, which could be doubling a rhythm guitar that had been single up until that point or something like that. And there's the deeper, which is possibly distorting the guitars more. And then there's the higher, which could be adding something like a high line or something like that. But sometimes distortion to that. Sometimes it's about making it thicker, so you go from open to dense. So being able to drive equipment gives you something where you're just changing the character of stuff that's already there, as opposed to now I'm going to bring in the new chorus instrument that is distorted. And it lets you do it in a subtle way so that you get the effect of it, but without being distracting. If you don't break out the plugin, you're missing 90% of the fun of the box. Because if you just plug it in and use it with the knobs, you can get exactly what you need to get. But some of the modes that you can't get to without the plugin, some of the ways you can automate it, and also the fact that you can go to crazier settings knowing that you can save them and you're not sort of stuck with them and you don't have to write it down. And it's just great. I mean, the hybrid architecture of it makes it so versatile that it's just, I don't know, it's more fun. I mean, I think For me and for a lot of people who work now in this age where everybody wants everything recalled all the time, sometimes you get scared to go and tweak too much because like, well, if I'm going to tweak a lot, I'll go do it with a plugin because that way I know it'll come back. And this gives you that ability to do it with a piece of gear that sounds different than anything you're going to get out of a plugin.